So today's lesson is going to be about expanding brackets, but I'm going to start right at the beginning. Whenever we do these types of questions on the do now, I always say to you, you don't have to use the grid method, but I always try and get you to use it. So remember what happens in the grid method. The reason I try and get you to do it is because it really, really helps when you're expanding brackets. So I'm going to go through 3 different things and then get you to do some Hegarty clips to practice. So the first thing is, how do we do the grid method? Now, a lot of you know, very quickly I'm going to go through it. This first box would be 70 times 70. 7 times 7 is 49, and I've got 2 zeros, so I'll put them on the end. Be really careful with those zeros, because that box is often where people make the mistake. Next box, this one here, 7 times 5 is 35, and there's 1 0 that I ignored. Now down to this box, 1 times 7 is 7, and there's 1 0 that I ignored. Now down to this box, 5 times 1 is 5. Now actually, I don't suggest you use this column, I suggest you do this. And what's the most important thing when we're doing this bit? Most important thing is you line those numbers up accurately. So we've got 5, remember we're adding 12, that's 12, 13 and 5. So my answer would be 5,325. Okay. That is the basis of what I'm actually going to do with this algebra. It's really, really useful. So I'm going to break it down for you a little bit on another page again. So now what I want you to do is have a look at the difference between these things. Okay, so first we're going to look at 3 times 78. So if I'm doing grid method, what I actually do, the 3 stays there, what do I do with the 78? I split it up, don't I, into the 70 and the 8. We do 3 times 70 is 210, 3 times 8 is 24. We add them together. I can do that bit in my head. I get 234. Now look at the algebra. I'm going to do exactly the same thing because that 3 multiplies both of those things, just like that 3 does. It's the exact same thing. So I'm going to do 3 multiplied by 4x and 3 multiplied by 2. So just like I've split the 78 into the 70 and the 8, this bracket, it's got 2 things in it, and then we can split them in kind of the same way. So then I can do 3 times 4x is 12x and 3 times 2 is 6. Now because the 6 is a positive 6, I must be adding it on. And that would be the answer to that one. It is exactly the same method. I'm just doing one with numbers and one with algebra. Now, what I'd like you to do now is go and do Hegarty Maths clip 160, but that's not the end of today's task, because I know you can already do this stuff. I just want you to practice it. So, because I think this will be quite quick for you, we are going to do another clip as well. But your first part of this task is to go now and do Hegarty Maths clip 160. Then come back to this video and carry on watching. Okay, so you should have gone and done clip 160 now and be ready to work on this one. Now, this is the exact same thing. It's just slightly harder. So think about what we do with this one. What we do is we split up the 40 and the 2 for 42, and we split up the 20 and the 3 for 23. Okay, I'm going to quickly do this. And we have 800, 240, I hope I've got all of this right, 46, 6, 8, and that's 10, 1086, so that one's 1086. Now, I may have made a mistake, I hope not, 1086, sorry. It's exactly the same with double brackets. Now, I do know you've done this before. I don't know how you were taught, but I want you to do this with the grid. You must do this with the grid. Every time I've taught this to students, they make less mistakes if they do the grid. You must do the grid. So what the first thing I'm going to do, and remember, this is split up for you. It's an X and it's a 2. So I've got an X and a 2. Next thing, this one's split up for you. It's an X. Be careful because it's a negative 1. So this one is an X and a negative 1. Now here is where you have to be quite careful. Be really careful when you're doing these multiplications. So for instance, this box, X times X, we know that, what is it? x squared. Be careful. This box, x times -1, -1x. Do remember, it's the negatives that you'll get stuck on with this, so you have to involve all negatives. This box, x times 2 is 2x, and the final box, -1 multiplied by 2 is -2. Now, we can't line it up like we did here and add it up. It doesn't work like that when we're doing algebra. We can only put like terms together. Look at those 4 terms in blue. Which ones are what we call like terms, are similar, can we combine together? Can we put the x squared with anything? Can we put the -2 with anything? The only 2 we can combine are these 2. So we've got 2x subtract 1x. And we know that is 1x. I can't combine this one, I can't combine this one. So all we do is write that out. X squared plus 1x, because this was just a 1x, that means I have to add it on, it's a positive number. And then we had a -2. And that would be the answer. That could also be written as this. So if you do something on Hegarty and you've written like a 1x and it says it's wrong, it might be just that he doesn't want you to write the 1. Okay, so this is what we're going to do today as the second part of the test. We're going to expand some double brackets. I'm going to carry on watching. I'm going to do 2 more examples. Okay, so the first example on the top left. If you think you remember how to do this, give it a go. You can pause the video and do now. If not, keep watching. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw my grid. On the left-hand side, I'm going to do my 2 parts of this bit, my x and my -3. Remember, that's a negative. And on the other one, I'm going to do my 2 terms. I've got my x and my 7. And now I'm going to do my multiplications. X times x is x squared. X times 7 is 7x. X times -3 is -3x. And 7 times -3 is -21. Think about it really carefully. Which ones of those can I put together? These with an x. And I've got -3x plus 7x. What's this? -3x add on 7x gives me 4x. So now I'm going to write the whole answer out. I've got this x squared. I've got this 4x because that's the middle 2 combined. And I've got -21. That is your answer. Okay. You've got one more example to do. Pause the video and try it now. See how far you can get. Okay. So you should have drawn a grid. Should have split this one over here. So we've got an x and a -4. This one up here, so we've got an x and a -6. X times x is x squared. X times -6 is -6x. X times -4 is -4x. And be careful, -4 multiplied by -6 is +24. Now we just need to think about how to put these together. So we start with which ones can we put together? These 2 here. And be careful with your negatives. -4x subtract 6x. What's that? So I'm at -4 and I'm taking off another 6. -10x. So we've got x squared subtract 10x. And remember, the x squared just comes from the bits that are left. The x squared and the 24 plus 24. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to try Hegarty Maths clip 162. Feel free to watch his explanation again, but I really, really encourage you to use the grid. I don't want to see anything else. I want to see a grid. When we get back to school and I go over this, I want to see a grid. You must draw a grid. I can't emphasise how much the grid will make it easier for you. As long as you use the grid, the most likely mistake is going to be with negative numbers. So as soon as you see a negative, be really, really careful. And if in your answers you can see that the only mistake was a negative, but you're most of the way there, I will look through your clip. I will accept for this one 60% as long as you attempt every question. If you only attempt 6 of them and don't do the last 4, well, I won't accept that. I will accept 60% and above if you do every question. You should be able to get 100%, just be really, really careful with your negatives. Okay, so this is the second part of this task. So 2 Hegarty Maths tasks for today's lesson. Have a lovely weekend, and hopefully I will see you soon.